Businessman uncovers hidden truth with open safe, but Maid'S response will move you to tears. Ethan Blake stood frozen, the cool metal of the old safe gripped in his hands, as if it were a time capsule, waiting to reveal its secrets. This wasn't just an antique. It was a relic that held pieces of his father's life, pieces he had never known. As an entrepreneur who built his business empire from the ground up in a vibrant suburban town, Ethan prided himself on his self-made success. Yet here he was, on the brink of discovering a hidden legacy that could unravel everything he thought he knew about his family. With a shallow breath, he finally pried the safe open. It creaked ominously, dust swirling in the dim attic light. Inside, a collection of faded letters and official documents caught his eye, but what made his heart race was the sizable stash of cash nestled there. A thundering pulse drowned out the silence of the attic. His fingers trembled as he sifted through these remnants of a past guarded fiercely by his father. Memories flashed before his mind's eye: a man working late, coming home exhausted, the barely contained frustration behind his father's smile. Who was he really? Ethan felt the room close in on him as he questioned the life he lived, the successes he had achieved. Had he even known his father? He took a step back, bracing against the sudden wave of betrayal. With his heart racing faster, he recalled the stories of their family, filtered through the lens of privilege. What if his father's hours of toil were not just to ensure a comfortable life, but arising from a desperate need to shield his family from economic ruin? A burden long carried in silence. Determined to uncover the reality behind the facade, Ethan sought out Maria, the family's longtime maid. Maria had been there through countless ups and downs. In many ways, she was the unsung thread stitching their lives together. When he revealed his discovery, her eyes widened with the weight of recognition and worry. A blend of pride and sorrow washed over her features. But why? This wasn't a joyful reunion of memories. It felt like a reckoning. Ethan, she began, collecting her thoughts like fragile glass. Your father fought battles you've never seen. He worked so hard, but the system, it's cruel. It not only drained him, but it tried to take your family apart. Her voice, filled with a mixture of compassion and sorrow, struck a chord within him. Memories of his father shifted in Ethan's mind, reshaping into a narrative of struggles far graver than those he had witnessed. Thoughts swirled chaotically. Was his success built on the very privilege that had shielded him from such struggles? Should he continue building his empire in silence, perpetuating an injustice he didn't acknowledge? Or was he now tasked with using his knowledge to fight against the very class barriers that had stifled his father's dreams? Before he could voice his conflicting thoughts, Maria leaned closer, her voice trembling as she added, Your dad's struggles didn't just threaten his stability. They threatened your family's very existence. The truth of her words sunk deep, igniting a surge of emotions within him. Anguish mingled with a newfound determination. The safe was more than a treasure chest. It was a command to confront not just his family's legacy, but his own role in a society that perpetuated inequality. The air grew thick with the weight of expectation. Ethan stood at a precipice, heart racing, mind swirling with uncertainty. What would he choose? Embrace a powerful legacy of hardship, or retreat into the comforts of privilege? In that moment, he was acutely aware that the next steps could alter not just his future, but that of countless others left to navigate the unforgiving landscape his father had battled. The uncertainty clawed at him, leaving him trapped in a storm of conflicting emotions. How would he reconcile his success with the truths he was just beginning to uncover? Ethan felt the weight of the moment pressing against his chest, the attic around him fading into a blur as he mentally wrestled with the implications of his father's life. The letters within the safe now seemed like whispers of a bygone era that screamed for acknowledgement. He had been so preoccupied with expanding his business that he had failed to notice the intricate threads in his family's story. Did his father's legacy hang in the balance, waiting for him to take action? Days turned into restless nights as Ethan combed through the letters, each word unraveling tales of struggle and resilience that felt foreign yet familiar. His father had documented his thoughts on financial strain, discrimination, and the unyielding demand for respect in a society that often disregarded the working-class family. Each letter was a piece of a larger puzzle, revealing not only his father's fears but also dreams thwarted by economic realities. Yet it wasn't just nostalgia sinking in. It was a growing sense of responsibility that began to gnaw at him. He could see the stark contrast between the life he'd lived and the sacrifices made on his behalf. He remembered his father's laugh, often tinged with weariness and a touch of bitterness. Did he carry that same laughter? Or had his own success dulled it into an unrecognizable smirk at the injustices around him? Ethan's resolve began to crystallize into a plan. He would engage with his family's story, not retreat from it. The empire he built felt hollow without an understanding of his origins, and now it was time to integrate those lessons into his professional ethos. A sudden clarity washed over him. He could leverage his position, using his influence to advocate for fairness and transparency within the business world that had long been clouded by discrimination. Those thoughts morphed into actionable ideas. An initiative to provide support and mentorship for underprivileged aspiring entrepreneurs materialized in his mind. What if he could host workshops that bridged the gap between seasoned professionals and early-stage visionaries from marginalized backgrounds? It was a start, albeit small in the grand scheme of economic disparities. The first step, however, demanded a confrontation he had long avoided, discussing his revelations with his business associates. Would they understand this newfound commitment to social equity? Or would they dismiss it as naivety? As he paced his office, the morning sun seeping through the glass walls, doubts crept in, embedding themselves in his thoughts. His phone buzzed incessantly, reminders of meetings scheduled with financial partners eager to bolster their profits. But what if Ethan, in those meetings, chose to pivot the conversation towards responsibility rather than just revenue? The prospect exhilarated him, yet filled him with trepidation. Could he truly bring about change within the rigid structures that had defined his success? The very foundations felt precarious now, a delicate balance between ambition and ethical responsibility that as he prepared for the meetings, he transformed his internal debate into a single statement. My father's story will be my compass. With renewed determination, he gathered his notes, embedding the core family values into his presentation. It was time to challenge the status quo, to intertwine his family's struggles with his business narrative. The moment to share this conviction arrived swiftly when he found himself seated across from his investors, their eyes expectant, their minds focused on financial forecasts. Ethan's voice trembled at first, but slowly gained strength. I need to talk about our responsibility as business leaders. Just as the room began to respond, the door swung open, and an unexpected figure entered, cutting through the tension his estranged brother, whom he hadn't seen in years. Their eyes locked, confusion mingling with recognition, as uncertainty settled heavily once more in the air. Ethan, his brother began, the words hovering with unspoken questions. This confrontation would alter everything. He could feel it in his bones. What truths lay ahead in this unexpected reunion? Ethan's heart raced as he faced his brother, the truth of their estrangement hanging between them like a heavy curtain. Memories, heavy and tinted with regret, flashed through his mind: childhood fights, misunderstandings, and the widening rift that led them to this moment. Would their fractured history cloud the urgency of the conversation he had just initiated with his investors? Why are you here? Ethan's tone was sharper than intended, but the years of silence fueled his defensiveness. Uncertainty danced in his brother's eyes, but he stepped further into the room, constraining his own tension. I came to see you, his brother replied quietly, words barely rising above the low buzz of the room. But I didn't expect to walk into a meeting. I didn't mean to interrupt. Ethan's gaze dropped to the table cluttered with notes and projections, the financial metrics that had consumed him recently now feeling insignificant. Was he truly the man he wanted to be, or merely a product of numbers and expectations? You didn't interrupt. He hesitated. He wanted to explain his motivations, but felt the urgency draining from his voice. I was just trying to talk about something important. His brother's brow furrowed, a flicker of understanding igniting a connection that had long been dormant. I know where you are now, successful, busy. But what about you? Why the sudden need for responsibility? Ethan took a deep breath. This was at the crossroads where a conversation rooted in family ties could spark genuine change, not just in him, but among his associates. The letters from their fathers surged into his thoughts, a silent urging toward honesty and vulnerability. Because I realized I've been chasing success without acknowledging where I came from, Ethan admitted, shifting in his seat to face his brother fully. Our father worked so hard, faced so many obstacles, and I didn't pay attention. I was too focused on this empire. His brother winced slightly, as if the admission stung. You think I haven't felt that as well? I struggled too, Ethan. Just because I wasn't at your level of success doesn't mean I don't carry the weight of his legacy. A crack formed in the tension as Ethan began to empathize. He remembered the many times they had both shared burdens alone, neither reaching out to the other for comfort or understanding. Their paths had diverged, but they were still connected by blood, by their father's whispered dreams and unfulfilled hopes. Ethan's voice softened, visibly shaken by the realization. Maybe we both need to confront our father's legacy. I want to do something meaningful to honor him. With those words hanging in the air, an uncharacteristically bold thought took root. What if this meeting was not just with investors, but a chance to involve his brother into the very initiative he had envisioned? What if we worked together? He proposed. We could create something that uplifts others, truly uphold our father's values. His brother's expression shifted, wavering between skepticism and curiosity. You really think we can do that? Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of everything: the pressure of his business, the expectations of his investors, and the uncharted territory of rekindling this relationship. Yet, amongst these conflicting pressures, a glimmer of hope ignited. I know we can make a difference together. Before his brother could respond, one of the investors cleared their throat, pulling them back to the tension of the conference room. The unyielding, calculating world of finance reasserted itself just as Ethan had begun to envision real change. With the conversation hanging and confusion swirling, Ethan faced not just his brother, but the reality of what it would mean to break down old barriers not only for their family, but within his professional realm as well. Could he forge a path that intertwined familial responsibility with business ethics? This meeting was just beginning, and yet it felt like the weight of the past threatened to crush any potential for moving forward. As silence enveloped the room, Ethan sensed that this was only the opening act. What revelations awaited them if they confronted their intertwined fates head-on? The answers they would uncover might yet redefine not just their future, but the very industries they represented. Another chapter awaited. Ethan's heart pounded as the room fell silent, the weight of unspoken words pressing heavily around him. Each investor's gaze felt like a spotlight, exposing the fissures in his carefully curated persona. He realized, in that charged moment, that the most significant investment he could make wasn't in numbers or forecasts, but in rebuilding the bridge of communication with his brother. "Let us take a break," Ethan finally said, his voice steadier than he felt. He turned to his brother, who seemed like a deer caught in headlights, uncertain of what to make of Ethan's unexpected proposition. "There's something we need to talk about now." The investors nodded, if not reluctantly, and dispersed into the corners of the lavish room to discuss their phone calls and emails. Ethan motioned for his brother to join him in the far corner, away from prying ears. The moment felt weighty, as if they both knew that the decisions made today would resonate for years to come. "Why now?" his brother asked, the tension still palpable in his voice. "Why do you want to drag me into this?" "Because it feels wrong to keep the past buried," Ethan admitted, his mind racing. "You have insight I lack, and together we might find a way to honor Dad's legacy, a way that aligns what we've created here with who we truly are." His brother nodded slowly, processing the proposal. Ethan felt a stirring of hope. Maybe they could harness their shared pain and frustration to build something meaningful together. His hands clenched, a physical manifestation of his growing conviction. "What do you have in mind?" his brother finally asked, crossing his arms. "We start with a foundation. Something that addresses the underserved community's education or healthcare. I don't know yet. It needs to be genuine." His brother stood there, eyebrows knitted together, searching for the sincerity in Ethan's proposition. "You mean you'd give up a share of your empire for this?" A pang of doubt rippled through Ethan at the question. Could he really divert his focus? But then he saw their father, weary yet resolute, waking every morning with only one aim: to provide better opportunities for his sons. "Yes, I would. I want to commit to something larger than just profit margins and stock prices." "It's not that simple, Ethan," his brother replied, taking a step back. You're fully entrenched in this financial chase. What if you start this with me, and it all falls apart? Then we learn from it. Ethan shot back, a fierce determination igniting within him. We find out where our strengths lie, and we adapt. ISNT that what business is about. This ISNT just about profit. It's about purpose. His brother hesitated, the drive for family connection pulling at him despite the lingering caution. And what if you get sidelined? What if you lose everything? Ethan took a deep breath. Then I'll fight to reclaim it, teaching myself and you along the way. I don't want to be successful if it means sacrificing who I am at my core. As they stood amidst the remnants of their past, the way forward seemed murky yet illuminated by possibility. The emotional unrest sparked a sense of urgency in Ethan. He could no longer allow fear to dictate his future. This was about harnessing their collective strengths. Let us talk this through, he suggested, the threads of reconciliation weaving through the dialogue. And if we come up with nothing, at least we were honest. But if we do, his brother's gaze flickered, the faintest spark of interest igniting in his eyes. Then what? Ethan met his brother's gaze, a challenge coiling beneath the surface, a mirror reflecting 10 years of silence and untapped potential. Then we changed the course of our legacy forever. Something our father would have been proud of. Just then, a sudden commotion echoed through the conference room as one of the investors, visibly agitated, began a heated exchange with the receptionist. Ethan turned slightly, and as his attention diverted, a thought formed in the back of his mind. Could the obstacles presenting themselves in their professional lives be interlinked with their personal struggles? As they searched for their footing amidst the chaos, doors seemed to swing both ways, one path leading directly to confrontation with their past, while the other unfolded toward an uncertain, yet exhilarating future. What awaited them at this crossroads might reveal the truth of their collective identities. Ethan felt the tension coil tighter, calling forth the challenge he had been avoiding too long. Would they embrace this opportunity for growth, or would the weight of their legacy drown them both? Ethan watched as the frantic exchange between the investor and the receptionist escalated. Voices reverberated through the room, breaking the heavy silence that had settled after his declaration. His brother remained standing across from him, arms crossed tight, an embodiment of doubt wrapped in tension. What now? His brother asked, disbelief in his tone. Ethan could sense the perturbation heightening the air, almost as if the chaos outside their bubble threatened to shatter their fragile moment of vulnerability. We focus, Ethan replied, forcing himself to step back from the noise outside. This is about us, about what we want to build together. The irony wasn't lost on him. Here he was, pushing for a partnership based on integrity and purpose, yet standing in a room filled with investors whose gains rested solely on profit margins. It's hard to believe, I know. But if we do this together, we can break free from this financial cage, he added, his voice steadier now. His brother was silent. Ethan could see the flicker of contemplation in his eyes, a mix of hope and reluctance battling for dominance. What if we chart a new course? Ethan proposed, leaning in. The foundation could redefine our values, perhaps even serve as an incubator for businesses focused on social impact. You've always believed in that. The words felt weighty, as if they threatened to open a floodgate of emotions. A part of Ethan feared what lay on the other side, a reunion, not just with his brother, but with the unresolved pain from their past. But without risk, growth was impossible. Okay, his brother finally replied, though the word came out like a tentative surrender. But let us be clear. This isn't a safe haven for our failures. This is a plan we build into a viable outcome. If we're going to do this, we must learn from the past. We must ensure we don't repeat the mistakes Dad made. There it was. The acknowledgement of their father's shortcomings, the exploration of their inherited legacy woven intricately into each decision. Ethan felt a tightness in his chest as he responded, capturing the urgency of the moment. That's exactly what I want to learn and adapt. I don't want to build something just for the sake of legacy. I want purpose to be at its core. The groundwork was being laid, the foundation of a new partnership building through their discussions. The urgency in Ethan surged as he thought about the work ahead, the endless nights that lay in front of them. He envisioned late-night meetings, brainstorming sessions filled with laughter and growing camaraderie. Let us outline our vision and set tangible goals, he continued, determination bubbling up. We could start small, target one specific community, assess what they need, and then build from there. With your skills in market analysis and my insights into operational efficiency, we can streamline our approach." His brother lifted an eyebrow, skepticism evident but tinged with a sense of intrigue. "And if those targets don't yield results? What happens to our financial security then?" Ethan's heart raced at the vulnerability of that question. The specter of failure haunted him. What if he couldn't hold both his professional ambitions and this new initiative together? The stakes were higher than before, not just financially but emotionally. "Then we face it," he declared, the conviction in his voice hardening. "We'll approach it like any business challenge. Analyze, adapt, and pivot. I don't want a safety net. I want us to take the plunge together. It's the only way we'll both grow." The air between them shifted, tangible energy pulsating as his brother's expression morphed from caution to contemplation. They stood at a crucial juncture, two men forging a new path out of the ruins of their shared history. Before either could speak again, the investor's escalating commotion reached a crescendo, drawing their attention. Ethan felt a bead of sweat race down his spine. The present chaos threatened to intrude on their moment. But what if this disruption was a precursor to something bigger? What if the stakes aren't just our legacy? He mused aloud, more to himself than to his brother. What if, along this journey of purpose, we discover truths about our family we didn't even know existed? As his brother turned to him, a challenge brewing behind his eyes, Ethan sensed a new frontier unfolding, one filled with risks, revelations, and the need for profound connection. Standing on the precipice of an unknown future, Ethan took a breath. The time had come not just to face their fears, but to confront the shadows of their past. They would need to prepare for the truth that awaited could change everything they had ever known. Ethan's mind buzzed with possibilities, each scenario cascading into the next with dizzying speed. As they stood in the cluttered office, the cacophony from the investors faded into a dull roar, overtaken by the pulse of his own heart. He clenched his fists, indignant yet determined. Today wasn't just about finding financial security, it was a reckoning. They needed to confront the weight of their family's legacy together. With a deep breath, Ethan shifted his focus to his brother's expression, searching for the flicker of resolve he had seen moments ago. He needed to tap into that commitment, to transform uncertainty into a shared purpose. "Let us put together a preliminary plan tonight," he proposed, his voice steady. "We can sketch out our vision, determine how we want to find meaning in our work." His brother hesitated, a wave of conflict washing over him. "You really think we can do this?" he asked, the question hanging between hope and doubt. Ethan could see the fear of failure lurking behind that skepticism. "I believe we can," he replied, the warm confidence igniting within him. "But we have to confront our fears. Together, we'll be stronger. We can't let our past, a legacy of mistakes, dictate our future." In that moment, his brother's facade began to crack. There was a vulnerability in his gaze that made Ethan want to reach out and strengthen what felt like a fraying bond. "I'm tired of feeling trapped in the cycle Dad left us," his brother confessed, each word a hesitant admission that suffocated the noise around them. "But I'm scared, Ethan. What if this slips through our fingers, like everything else?" Ethan felt the simmering urge to reassure him, but he was also haunted by that very doubt. They stood at the crossroads, and still, that doubt tangled in the air and twisted through his thoughts like a vine, choking his confidence. "We must embrace that fear," he urged, tapping into the intensity simmering between them. "It's a part of growth, of stepping into something new." His brother nodded slowly, as if weighing the gravity of those words. In his brother's silence, Ethan felt the shift, the tentative commitment to embark on this journey of transformation. "Let us define what we stand for," Ethan pressed, feeling the momentum surge within him. "Our foundation won't just be about numbers or profit margins. It'll embody our shared values, our commitment to integrity." The idea ignited a spark in his brother, whose posture relaxed slightly. "Trust and transparency," he mused, absorbing the implications. "We can create a culture that encourages ambition but holds us accountable." "Yes," Ethan exclaimed, the enthusiasm building as they carved through the fog of uncertainty. "With those principles, we can make decisions that align with our vision." We'll create a platform to nurture businesses that yield not just profits, but positive impacts on lives. And we'll document every step, learning along the way. Their conversation grew vibrant, a roadmap punctuated with passion and action. Yet, beneath the exhilaration was an undercurrent of anxiety, a flickering shadow of their past decisions that loomed ominously. Ethan could almost feel their father's presence in the room, questioning their intentions, and it further fueled his determination to break the cycle. "Let us dig deep," Ethan suggested, voice lowering as he considered the more delicate truths. "We need to confront not just the business plan, but the family story, the past decisions that brought us here. Understanding that could be our greatest asset." His brother remained silent for a moment, contemplating. "You think doing this will help us heal?" "It might," Ethan replied, feeling the weight of his own honesty. "But even if it doesn't, we'll be forging our own path, one that's not buried under our family's shadows." The tension in the air sharpened, and as Ethan glanced at his brother, he saw both fear and determination intertwine. They were poised at the brink, ready to reshuffle the cards of their inherited legacy. Just as the emotion began to weave a bridge between them, a loud crash echoed from outside, shattering the fragile calm they had created. "What was that?" his brother asked, instinctively recoiling, and Ethan knew that whatever awaited them could alter the trajectory of not only their newfound partnership, but the very foundation they aimed to build. He felt a visceral jolt of anxiety racing through him, reminding him of the stakes. They were about to venture into something far larger than anticipated. What if this moment was the tipping point, the opportunity for profound transformation, or a stark reminder of how easily they could falter? With the echoes of the crash still lingering, Ethan met his brother's gaze, an unspoken understanding passing between them. They were about to face whatever came next, together. As they prepared to confront the unknown, a question rang in Ethan's mind, echoing their commitment. What hidden truths lay in wait, threatening to unravel everything they just began to build? The moment the crash reverberated through the office, Ethan's instincts kicked into high gear. He glanced toward the window, half expecting to see chaos unfold outside. Instead, contrasting the turmoil in his mind, the street remained eerily still, a blank canvas painted with the colors of his unease. "Let us check it out," he said, a sense of urgency pushing him forward. His brother's hesitation was palpable, but Ethan could feel his own resolve hardening. Together, they needed to confront whatever lingered in the ether, a hidden tension in the air, not just from the crash, but from their own collective doubts. As they stepped outside, the late afternoon light cast long shadows across the pavement, mirroring the shadows of their inner conflict. A broken crate lay scattered across the ground, its contents spilled out like remnants of their inherited burdens, old family trinkets entwined with shattered glass, in a way that felt almost poetic. "Just a delivery gone wrong," his brother murmured, relief evident in his voice, but Ethan wasn't convinced. The crash felt more than just a coincidence. It was a jarring reminder of how fragile their aspirations were. They shifted their focus back to the office, where a makeshift desk cluttered with papers and coffee cups awaited them, each item a fragment of their ambition. "We need to distill those values we talked about," Ethan suggested, pushing the remnants of the earlier conversation back to the forefront. "What do we really stand for? Maybe we should focus on how to actualize those values, not just define them," his brother retorted, a new spark firing behind his eyes. "If we want to be transparent, we can't hide from what has happened before." Ethan nodded, the subtle shift in his brother's demeanor igniting something within him. He started to realize their discussion had shifted from fear-laden worries to a proactive exchange of ideas. Exactly. The past is not just something we inherit. It's a foundation to build upon. We can learn from it. "Let us write a plan." "No, not a plan, a manifesto," his brother interjected, excitement intertwining with his newfound courage. "Something that lays out what we refuse to repeat and what we will embrace. This is turning into more than just a business. It's our rebellion against our history." The idea brought a rush of adrenaline. Ethan imagined crafting a clear narrative, framing their mission as a response to the burdens they wished to shed. This was more than just about profitability. This was the art of rebuilding their legacy, brick by brick, with intentionality. As they began to sketch out their manifesto, An unexpected thought pierced his concentration. What if their family's legacy had hidden depths, meanings yet unexplored? They were taught to fear the specters of their father's decisions. But what if there was wisdom buried beneath that turbulent past, if only they dared to uncover it? What if we incorporate our family's story into this manifesto? Ethan proposed, the concept gaining traction in his mind. We should confront everything, the mistakes, the successes, acknowledge them as part of our identity. His brother looked contemplative. You think it might help us heal, as you said earlier? More than healing, Ethan replied, determination gnawing at him like an unquenchable fire. It could empower us. Knowledge is power, and by embracing all of it, we can write our narrative. Just then, their office phone rang, reverberating through the room like an urgent reminder that time was slipping away. In that moment, they were both enveloped in the potential of what lay ahead, yet held back by the gravity of their past. Ethan paused, momentarily frozen, his heart pounding furiously. What if that call indicated someone wanted to invest not just in their business, but in their story? What if their blueprint for recovery was met with skepticism instead of acceptance? Steeling himself, he reached for the phone, glancing back at his brother, whose hopeful face mirrored his steely resolve. Are we ready for this? He asked, a sense of gravity grounding both of them in the tension of their trajectory. We are, his brother affirmed, voice steady. Let us take the plunge. With every rise and fall of the dial tone, the weight of possibility looming ahead felt almost unbearable. This was no ordinary call. This could redefine everything they were embarking on. As he lifted the receiver, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that the very foundations of their aspirations were about to be tested in ways they had yet to comprehend. Would the voice on the line offer a lifeline or plunge them deeper into uncertainty? The call began to ring. As he prepared to answer, fresh doubts twisted around his resolve, pushing him closer to an edgier precipice than he had anticipated. What would he discover on the other end? Ethan steadied his breath as he lifted the receiver. Each ring echoed in his ears like the ominous tolling of a bell, heralding either opportunity or disaster. This was a pivotal moment, one that could significantly alter the course of their venture. He finally calmed the churn of his thoughts, determined to approach the call with a clear mind. Hello? The measured voice on the other end sent a shiver down his spine, a blend of authority and curiosity. Hi, this is Ethan White. I know who you are. The voice interjected, confident and direct. I'm Linda Harper. I'm calling about the proposal you submitted last week. Ethan's heart raced. Right. I hope to discuss potential collaboration and investment in our project. After a brief pause, Linda replied, I'm intrigued by your focus on transparency and innovation. But I have some concerns. We need to address the history behind your brand. It's essential if this venture is to succeed. Ethan felt a flush of affirmations course through him. She was asking the right questions. Absolutely. We're looking to redefine our narrative. Our family's legacy is complex, filled with lessons we've only begun to unveil. Complex, indeed, she remarked. And how prepared are you to confront the less glamorous aspects of that history? I assume you're aware that a strong narrative can also expose vulnerabilities? Ethan swallowed hard. The thought of exposing the family's past filled him with a mix of dread and excitement. We have to be. Authenticity might be our greatest selling point. Yet authenticity can be painful, Ethan. People will want to dig deeper than just the surface of your manifesto, she replied steadily. Will you withstand the scrutiny, or will it fracture your resolve? He contemplated the weight of her words. The entire family history felt like a labyrinth. Trapped within its twists were stories of failure, struggle, and hard-won wisdom. But could he embrace all of it without hesitating, knowing full well that each revelation could hurt not just him, but his brother as well? Linda, I believe facing our past is critical. It's what drives us forward, he said, carving determination into his voice. She paused again, evaluating him. All right, Ethan, I want to see where your journey takes you. I suggest you come prepared to discuss this history. Dig deep, and come back to me with your findings. I'll give you 2 weeks. With that, she hung up, and silence enveloped Ethan like an unwanted cloak. The intensity of her challenge lingered, igniting a flame of urgency within him. He turned to his brother, who was watching, expression a cocktail of concern and anticipation. What was that about? He asked, looking for a hint of reassurance. They want us to confront our past, Ethan responded, excitement and anxiety battling for dominance. It's not going to be easy, but it could be our turning point. His brother raised an eyebrow, skepticism creeping in. You're serious about diving into all that? The failures, the conflicts? We don't have a choice, Ethan insisted. This might be what liberates us. If we're going to build something powerful and lasting, we need to understand our foundation. There's a risk, though, his brother said slowly. What if we dig up ghosts that are better left buried? Or worse, what if it breaks us? Determined energy crackled through Ethan. Then we'll confront them head on. We owe it to ourselves to explore every facet of our legacy, both good and bad. It's the only way to dismantle the weight it holds over us. As they launched into a plan, laying out questions to ask, stories to unearth, Ethan felt the urgency coalesce into focus. Each step they prepared to take was steeped in risk, but also in the promise of growth. However, despite the growing sense of purpose, gnawing doubts lingered. Could engaging with their past fortify their future, or would it expose unhealed wounds that would threaten to unravel everything they were trying to build? The path ahead stood obscured, fraught with adversity, calling to Ethan with both trepidation and hope. With every flicker of resolve, he understood that this wasn't just a business endeavor. It was about curating a narrative of resilience his and his brother's. As they gathered their notes, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows once more. Ethan felt a stirring deep within, a mix of anxiety and anticipation. What would they uncover, and would the truth prove liberating or devastating? Would it unite them or drive a wedge in their partnership? The real work was just beginning, and he braced himself for the revelations that lay ahead. Ready or not, the journey into understanding their family legacy was about to commence, ready to unearth the intricacies hidden within the past. Ethan sank into the chair across from his brother, the weight of the phone conversation with Linda still pressing down on him. He stared at the mess of papers and sticky notes scattered across the table, remnants of their preparatory brainstorming. Each scrap reminded him of the daunting task ahead, not just digging into their family history, but reconstructing it into a narrative that would resonate. Okay, let us break this down, Ethan said, trying to quell the turmoil in his mind. We have 2 weeks. We need a strategy for digging into our past without letting it steamroll us. His brother nodded but remained silent, a stark contrast to Ethan's whirlwind of determination. We can start with family records, letters, anything stored away. I can reach out to our grandparents. Stop, his brother interrupted, his voice tight. Let us not rely on them just yet. What if they don't want to talk about certain things? Or worse, what if they're not honest? Ethan felt the uncertainty shift in the air. Then we'll have to uncover it on our own. That's the challenge, right? Figuring out what they've hidden. The truth must come from multiple angles. He pushed away from the table and stood, energy bubbling within him. With newfound resolve, he paced the room, feeling the walls close in with the weight of history attached to them. The very act of exploring our past is going to be uncomfortable, but that's where growth occurs. We must see it through. His brother's gaze held a hint of skepticism, but he said nothing. Ethan felt an irritation growing within him. It wasn't just doubt, it was fear. You're thinking about the demons lurking in those memories, but what if they're not so scary after all? They might be the motivating fuel we need. Or they could ignite a fire that destroys us, his brother shot back. You don't know what we're going to find out there. We could unearth things that change how we view everything. Ethan halted, struck by his brother's words. Would learning the truth alter their perception of their parents, their upbringing? Would it change their very essence? He clasped his hands together. What if we approach this like an investigation, instead of a dig? Not just unearthing what's buried, but understanding it in context? We can choose how we let it affect us. His brother leaned back, contemplating. So you're saying this should be more than just a retrieval? More of a journey toward integrating our legacy into who we are now? Exactly, Ethan replied, feeling a rush of adrenaline. What if we embrace the unsavory moments? Rather than avoid the hurt, we can use it to spark a narrative of resilience. It could redefine our brand and strengthen our resolve. As realization dawned, Ethan's pulse quickened. Each hidden truth could serve as a lesson, a chance to evolve, if they were willing to face it. The prospect of crafting a narrative of resilience transformed this heavy endeavor into a thrilling challenge. Let us start with something manageable. We can outline specific stories or events that shaped our family, both good and bad, Ethan suggested, grasping at the threads of possibility. We'll explore our parents' failures and successes, even the moments that felt mundane. Every detail matters because they all contributed to who we are today. With a newfound sense of purpose flowing, he mapped out their approach on a clean sheet, organizing thoughts into sections: successes, failures, intriguing questions. He included places to link back to potential narratives. But despite the growing clarity, he still couldn't suppress the knots in his stomach. What if the journey led to homes left cold by resentments? What if ghosts manifested into something that threatened their bond? I can't promise it won't be painful, but let us promise we'll handle it together, he said, turning to his brother. This is our legacy, and we have to rewrite it as a team. His brother nodded, albeit hesitantly. Okay, let's try it your way. We'll organize our thoughts, do the research, and confront whatever comes up together. Ethan exhaled, relieved but still wary, the path ahead muddled, yet illuminated by the spark of shared ambition. As they dove deeper into their preparations, Ethan recognized that this was more than just about business. It was about challenging the very core of their identity, forging a connection not only with each other, but with their family's essence. Would they emerge stronger, or face an unraveling that could shatter their hard-fought dreams? With every minute ticking away, the confrontation loomed, casting an even larger shadow. What kind of truths would they ultimately face, and would those revelations bind them closer or expose cracks they could not repair? The countdown had started. Ethan's heart raced with difficulty, yet undeniable excitement, as the journey beckoned. As 2 weeks flew by, Ethan's anticipation morphed into a tangible itch. The countless late nights spent scouring family records, connecting dots between fragmented memories and letters, became an emotionally charged roller coaster ride. Each uncovered artifact intensified their exploration, revealing layers of triumph and heartache within the Blake family history. It was challenging, demanding deep introspection, but as they delved into these truths, Ethan could sense a transformation burgeoning not only in himself, but within the reconciled bond with his brother. Together, they crafted a breath of new life into their father's legacy, the essence of struggle reframed into a manifesto of resilience and purpose. Ethan felt invigorated. They were no longer pursuing mere financial success. They directed their energy toward an impactful narrative that recognized the hard truths of privilege and the weight of obligation that success brought upon their shoulders. At that pivotal meeting with Linda, just days before unveiling their initiative, Ethan felt a mix of vulnerability and empowerment. Clutching their crafted manifesto under his arm, he could almost feel the collective weight of their family history emblazoned across its pages, shimmering with potential. Linda greeted him with a penetrating gaze that seemed to evaluate not just their proposal, but also Ethan himself. I have to admit, I was skeptical, she started, her voice even but inquisitive. All right, let us hear your story. Ethan stepped forward, setting the manifesto on the table. This isn't simply a business plan. It's our legacy and a reflection of who we are as brothers, as entrepreneurs. We are committed to creating a foundation that embodies not just our success, but the struggles that carved our path. As he meticulously unraveled their narrative, sharing the burdens borne by their father, the sacrifices made, and the ultimate realization that privilege does not negate responsibility, he felt the room shift. Linda was intrigued. He could see the admiration in her eyes as she began to understand the depth of their mission. But how do you intend to translate this into action? She inquired, leaning closer, her skepticism turning slowly into curiosity. Ethan's confidence grew with every word. Our foundation will focus on mentorship for underprivileged entrepreneurs, providing access to resources and guidance that we had the privilege of taking for granted. We aim to establish a community where stories like ours can inspire hope and tangible career pathways. Linda paused for a moment, processing. Captivating. However, will your backers allow it? Are they ready to embrace values over numbers? They will have to, Ethan replied, framing his conviction with certainty. If we don't take this step ourselves, learn from our history, then all of it will remain a hollow pursuit of success. When the meeting concluded, Linda extended her hand, recognition sparking between them. I think you have something special here, Ethan. You're ready to revolutionize how this industry perceives success. I will support you. As Ethan walked out of the meeting, a wave of profound satisfaction washed over him. He had shared not just a plan, but a heartfelt reflection of his and his brother's growth. They were facing the shadows of their pasts together, using them as stepping stones to create a brighter future in the days that followed. Ethan felt a sturdy confidence blossom. A callback to a moment when he stood paralyzed before the safe, now a fading memory, a marker of the man he used to be. The unraveling truth about his family transformed from a looming threat to a catalyst for a more profound understanding of success. Together, he and his brother engaged in interviews and workshops, cementing their identities as advocates for meaningful change. They witnessed firsthand how sharing their story paved the way for others to rise and crush the cycles of disadvantage. It became clear to Ethan that their family legacy, once overshadowed by despair, could now forge hope for the future, proof that true success rested in lifting others. As he stood at the helm of a burgeoning foundation filled with purpose, Ethan felt an unshakable pride. The initial conflict had driven him to the precipice of transformation. What started as a meticulous script of hidden truths now represented a relentless pursuit of equitable success. This was the defining moment of Ethan's journey, a true commitment to blending his familial legacy with a mission that resonated deeply with his values. He proved not only to himself, but also to the world that success can indeed carry the weight of responsibility, empathy, and a profound transformative purpose. Now, it's your turn. You need to subscribe now to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories flooding your feed. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your love. Comment your reactions and theories about this satisfying ending. Your insights matter. And please, share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to spread the word. Join our community of overcoming stories today.